to METALS100 at PDAC 2025. We are so glad to have Bart from Group 11 Resource here today. Yeah, so
Thanks,
good
Jade.
to have you here. How are you doing today?
Very good, very good. Yourself?
I'm great too, thank you.
Super.
So let's start with a quick introduction. Can you tell us more about your company?
Yeah, it's a 40 million market cap explorer. We're focused on Ireland. We've made the most significant discovery in Ireland in the last decade or so. It's a zinc, lead, high silver discovery. It's got germanium in it and a budding sort of copper target underneath it. So it's a very interesting situation. And in terms of our capital structure, we're number 1 and number 2 owned by Glencore and Michael Gentile. So they're our largest shareholders, and they also both sit on the board. So we have a very unique situation in our relationship with Glencore in that they are our next door neighbors, they're our largest shareholder, and they sit on our board. So it's quite unique. And of course, the big news for us recently was that Michael Gentile, after having been our second largest shareholder for the last 4 years, decided to join the board, that we were mature enough a story, and the discovery we've made is really growing into something, that he decided to step on the board, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Great. So can you tell us more about your key projects and the latest development of them?
Yeah, so the discovery is called Ballywire, and it is located only 20 kilometers away from Glencore's Palace Green deposit, so i.e. within trucking distance. So we have a bit of critical mass already in the camp. The typical type of intersection is 10 meters of 10% zinc and lead with about 100 grams silver. And the interesting thing about that is that the typical Irish type zinc deposit runs between either 0 silver, 30 grams or maybe 60 grams. We're typically getting 50 to 150 grams per ton. So much, much higher than the typical Irish type zinc deposit. And also we have this really interesting roots idea in terms of below the zinc horizon, we increasingly believe that there's a copper silver target underneath it. And so that's really compelling. And of course, germanium is part of the story as well. So we've demonstrated in January that across our entire discovery strike to date, we're getting anomalous and elevated germanium numbers. And germanium is quite topical these days because it's used for AI chips. There's restrictions worldwide about the exports of germanium. So China has blocked exports of germanium. Germanium mostly comes out of China. So it's a really interesting metal. And it's worth double that of silver. So that's a really interesting component of it. So to have germanium on European soil is a strategic benefit, also a potential sweetener for us.
Great. So you recently upsized your private placement. So how are you going to allocate these funds to support your projects? Right.
So we have a 6 kilometer long trend defined by 4 gravity high anomalies, of which only 1 has been drilled to date. That's where the discovery is to date. We have 44 holes into that discovery over 2.6 kilometers, but that represents only 1 gravity high anomaly, and there's 3 others. And so really with the capital we just raised, we hope to potentially accelerate our drill program. We have currently 2 rigs running. Maybe we'll go to 3, etc. And the idea will be twofold, to basically drill along that 6 kilometer trend, but also test underneath our zinc discovery horizon into our copper potential discovery horizon, copper silver horizon, which we'll be testing later this year. So a 2-pronged approach.
So the recent high-grade drill result from Ballywire catches our attention. So how will it impact your exploration strategy?
The high grade that we just recently hit at Ballywire has really taught us, again, back to the copper silver target, because we're getting an increasing amount of pierce points where copper and silver are really high. So the copper numbers, we're getting up to 6% copper, which is really elevated, but also getting up to 1,400 grams per ton silver, which is the highest silver kick ever attained in Ireland over the last 60 years by anybody in the country. So that piece of information is telling us, that the copper and silver is coming up the feeders from somewhere down below, and on the second hand, it's basically telling us we know the stratigraphy of the area, and we know about 100 meters below our discovery horizon is something called the Lower Limestone Shale. That Lower Limestone Shale happens to host 3 copper-silver deposits next door to us. And those copper-silver deposits basically are the remnants. They've largely been eroded off. They're the remnants of copper-silver systems. They probably once had a zinc system sitting on top of them. At Ballywire, why that's important is that Ballywire is preserved. It's about 200 to 300 meters depth, which is relatively shallow, but it is preserved. And therefore, if there is a copper-silver system underneath us, it too will be preserved, as opposed to the three neighboring ones, which are, to a large part, eroded off, or to some degree eroded off. So it's a really compelling idea that's forming, and obviously the market audience, Jade, for copper is much bigger than it is for zinc. So if we can show to the market that we have a viable copper story as well as a zinc story, obviously I think our market audience will flourish.
Interesting. So looking at the bigger market, how do you see the zinc price evolving in market in 2025?
Well, there's a clear shortage of supply in the zinc market. The best telltale, the best barometer for that is the treatment charges. And basically they have dropped to the floor and then some. In 2023, the treatment charges were about $250. Last year, they were about $160. This year, the benchmark deal is just setting. The discussions are ongoing right now. They're speculated to come in somewhere between $50 and $100 per ton, which is super low and I think unprecedented in terms of the low level it is. And that's a really bullish signal because it means the smelters are so desperate that they're willing to drop their rates to attract scarcer and scarcer concentrate from the miners. And that really shows you that, in terms of outlook for the zinc price, it's quite positive. And that's in the backdrop of solid demand growth, 1% to 2% a year, more towards 2% supposedly for the next decade as opposed to 1% in the last decade of yearly growth in demand. So the dynamics are really positive.
That's a great update on Group 11, and thank you so much, Bart, for sharing your insight with us today.
Thanks so much.
Hope you enjoyed the show.
I appreciate it, you too. Thanks so much.